Oh my gosh, you thought that Chrissy Lampkin and Jim Jones' romance was all hip-hop and love? Hold on tight, because the latest drama on the internet is eerie. It seems that Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin got into a terrifying public altercation. According to several accounts and the facts, witnesses say that things rapidly became worse and worse. And Jim's reputation is barely hanging on. It all started with what seemed to be a simple argument, but suddenly took a terrible turn, according to reports. Jim lost all control. It's worse than you can imagine. Honey, the audience was shocked. Chrissy was scared, and social media was in a complete meltdown. Did Jim Jones really go too far this time? Get your popcorn ready, because insiders are leaking information that might ruin Jim's entire career, leaving fans split and celebrities coming out in search of answers about what triggered his violent outburst, and most importantly, who is the mysterious person at the center of this drama. If you thought the relationship between Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin was nasty before, get ready for this latest scandal, which is just getting started. Even producers of Love and Hip Hop are probably desperately trying to figure out how to handle it, because it's so wild. Let's take a look back at how we got here. The details are nasty, sweetheart. Last Saturday night, it all started at a private party when Jim Jones and Chrissy Lampkin showed up together, holding hands and smiling as if fans were shocked too. Learned that Chrissy had stood by Jim despite his involvement in dubious business dealings, financial difficulties, and allegations of infidelity, but everything was well because Jim and Chrissy's relationship had been strained for years, and then they're taking a break, but this time Chrissy may have had enough, according to witnesses. Jim and Chrissy were sitting in the VIP section of Posh Club in New York City when things started to go awry, and it appears that Jim had been drinking a little too much, which, let's face it, is not particularly unusual for him, but this time it hit in a different way, according to a club source. Chrissy kept trying to calm Jim down, but he was not having any of it. Jim was acting strangely all night long, pacing back and forth and looking angry, before BM reports state that Jim got a text message, and when Chrissy went over to ask him about it, things got hot. According to witnesses, Jim started to yell and snatched his phone away from Chrissy. But he wasn't going to let it get to him depart, despite Chrissy's repeated attempts to maintain her composure, because as you are well aware, she dislikes creating a scene while sitting nearby. Another source said, "Calm down, Jim, not here." Chrissy became agitated and started pointing at while he was raising his voice. People started to notice him. Although the music was still playing, you could see people staring toward the VIP area. According to an witness, Jim, things really started to get out of control at that moment. He walked directly into Chrissy's face, seemingly reaching for her arm, but Chrissy pushed him away and cried, "Do not do it, Jim." Jim did it though, my dear. He reportedly attempted to pull Chrissy from the booth. The whole bar paused when Chrissy grabbed her arm and cried, "Let off of me." An unidentified person associated with the pair then stepped in to break them up, according to insiders who said Jim had been close friends with this unidentified man for years. But how did he intervene? He almost seemed more interested in keeping Chrissy safe than Jim. A witness described the encounter, and Jim pushed the man away and told him to stay out of it. Security had to step in at this point because Chrissy was shaking, her face was red, and it was clear that she was upset. He told him to cool down, stating, "You were doing too much, Jim." Jim slammed the unknown man one final time while attempting to hold back her tears, saying, "You do not know what the asterisk you are talking about." As security dragged him out of the club, Chrissy stood behind Honey, and according to one source, Chrissy appeared eerie. She sat down and buried her head in her hands. People came up to her to inquire about her well-being, but she stayed silent and just sat there. This is when things get even more chaotic. According to those who know a mystery woman that Chrissy believes Jim has been toying with for months, was sending Jim a lot of texts on his phone, according to a bad rumor that was making Jim angry. Yes, there have been claims against Jim Stray for years. However, Chrissy has always defended him. She denied reports that Jim was out in Miami with an unnamed lady, but this time she saw the proof herself. According to someone close to Chrissy, he knew he was caught, and after Chrissy saw the text on Jim's phone, he acknowledged it and reacted angrily. "Let me tell you, social media seized the opportunity, and before you knew it, a member's video of the argument was already becoming viral online. Of the club took a video of the entire episode and posted it on TikTok with the caption, 'Jim Jones is over. He just went out on Chrissy in the club.' What about the comments? They were candid. 'My dear, Chrissy needs to get away from him by now. Jim, are you out here making Chrissy look terrible once again? If she continues to live with him at this time, she'll display herself.' What is the most ridiculous part of the event is that neither Chrissy nor Jim have said a thing, and Jim's Instagram account is silent, but Chrissy's talls are empty, since we are all aware that silence is more powerful than words. This is where things become even more interesting, however, because of the unnamed man who stood up for Chrissy. He may not even be a friend, honey. According to insiders, he has been with Chrissy for a while. Let's just say that some people are starting to wonder if Chrissy has moved on by now, according to someone close to the pair. Jim is aware that Chrissy has been relying on him for emotional support and that they have been at odds for months. Additionally, Jim lost his. The real concern now is what will happen, because from what I've heard, Chrissy won't back down this time. Getting angry with her in public is a sign of anxiety, not just rage that she would permanently stop their relationship. Chrissy may eventually lose it because she is worn out and has had enough of Jim too. He is currently in damage control mode. And from what I've heard, he has already gotten in touch with some of his industry friends to try to conceal the news, but there is no going back in time. Now that the video is widely known, let me explain the ramifications of this incident. It will fundamentally alter the hip-hop and romantic landscapes, as Jim may lose his relationship if Chrissy permanently quits and the stories of this enigmatic man are true. He might lose everything, and trust me, this is just the beginning of what will happen. Next, if you thought the first part was messy, you're in for a lot more, honey. Because of Jim Jones's fury, IOU's consequences, well yeah, it is much worse than we thought. Fans are taking sides, the internet is raging, and let me tell you what about Chrissy's present behavior. It seems like Jim might have really messed up with the woman and the suitcase. Where will we end up? Then security removed Jim from the club after he tried to drag Chrissy out of the booth in front of a packed room. Chrissy sat there, stunned, embarrassed, and ashamed. Would you mind talking about what happened next? As that's where the real let's analyze what we now know, honey. In addition to Chrissy's response, according to people close to the couple, Jim lost his temper. Because of those texts, by close I mean that Jim had been texting an unnamed woman. Jim has denied Chrissy's concerns for months, according to a very trustworthy insider, and we're talking about serious conversations, flirty texts, and open emotional betrayal here, not just some casual side chick of. However, when Chrissy spotted those messages on his phone and they were ugly, honey, we're talking about late night texts like, I miss you, when will you be coming to visit me? But Chrissy doesn't have to know. Is it acceptable with you? What is the worst part is that Chrissy had no intention of talking about it, according to insiders. This enigmatic woman is not just any woman. It appears that she has a link to someone in the industry. Yes, this is likely to turn into a full-blown industry scandal, according to someone close to Chrissy. She was trying to address the situation privately, but Jim's response was what really set everything in motion. At first, Chrissy remained calm and attempted to act like an adult, but she recognized Jim's remorse when he started to shout, and act irrationally. And you know that Jim has previously been linked to cheating rumors. Do you all remember Jim's 2019 Miami S with that Instagram model? When Chrissy went live, she basically told everyone to stop talking, saying, yes, I'm not playing that game now. Twitter was already ablaze with hashtags like #ProtectTry and #Jim Jones exposed by the time the video surfaced on blogs. What about the harsh comments? Chrissy has to break up with him permanently this time. What about the celebrities who started weighing in? I noticed that Cardi B posted on Twitter that some of you don't deserve the ladies you have, and that it's embarrassing that you treat the woman who held you down like we. Jim Christie needs to recognize him for who he really is. Even Arma, who usually steers clear of controversy of this kind, liked the tweet that said, Chrissy deserves better. Jim has been acting strangely for years by Tamar Braxton. So Chrissy is better than me. Additionally, since social media investigators never take a vacation, Jim's supporters immediately started looking into his social media activity. You know what they found? Jim hasn't exactly been acting like a faithful man, let's say. You can probably guess who the woman who appeared in screenshots of Jim liking and commenting on pictures of her was. The same woman who may have sent those messages. In addition, they found that Jim had been making fun of her in a recent direct conversation by calling her attractive after posting the screenshots. One fan said Jim had been acting recklessly and Christy had just caught him, while also used heart eye emojis as like he wasn't already interested. Jim is also not taking care of himself, honey, since Jim decided to share this enigmatic statement on Instagram instead of remaining silent and letting the tension ease. Half of it is unknown to you all. Is that okay? Jim, what exactly is unknown to us? The real shocker, however, occurred when the unnamed man who broke up the fight and raised his voice. Do you remember our discussion about the man who stepped in between Jim and Chrissy? He is clearly much more informed than he says. He is the unidentified man, has apparently been close to Christy for years, and has seen Jim's secret treatment of her, and from what I've heard, he's tired of it. An insider claims that the unnamed man has been telling Christy for years that Jim isn't the right man for her, but she wasn't ready to hear it, and now he seems to be taking on several roles, obligations, because Chrissy reportedly overheard the unidentified man say, you deserve better, you do not deserve this, during the assault, and the way Chrissy was looking at him after that. There's certainly something there, sweetheart, even though Chrissy doesn't frequently switch between relationships. There is a link between her and this guy. According to someone with knowledge of the situation, Jim also says that it doesn't please him after the Jim allegedly approached the unknown person. And according to an insider, things became heated. Jim yelled at him to back off and act like it. The mystery man replied, so the question now is Chrissy really done with Jim for good? Chrissy may have needed that wake-up call because from what I've heard, she is finally starting to pay attention to those around her, including the fact that this unnamed man stepped in while Jim was acting out. Jim is spiraling out of control and he looks messy and unhappy when he is out drinking in New York. He has been trying to make up by phoning Chrissy all the time, but she is not answering. Honey, what is the most ridiculous part? Rumor has it that Chrissy has already started talking to her lawyer. If this is the case, if this is true, then Jim might lose both Chrissy and his money, because guess what? Jim's business affairs and the property they live in are in Chrissy's name. If Chrissy departs, Jim might not have anywhere where to go, honey. The issue is that Chrissy has not yet voiced her thoughts. She hasn't posted anything on social media, and the reason for that speaks louder than anything she could say. Nevertheless, the fact that she is already talking to her lawyer confirms that Jim's circumstances are not favorable and that the repercussions of this are imminent, make things even more difficult. Honey, what if Christy brings a lawsuit and the unnamed woman comes forward? Jim's career and image could be permanently damaged. Trust me, you are not ready for what is going to happen, so hold on tight, because in chapter, wait until you hear what occurred next. Honey, if you thought part 2 was insane due to Jim Jones' outburst, then part 3 is going to go nuclear. It's getting out of control. What harm do you see now that it's worse than everyone expected? Even his love and business reputation are on the verge of collapse, and Chrissy's current trajectory suggests that Jim may have finally pushed her too far, to put it mildly. Where do we end up? It turns out that Jim was in a downward spiral after being exposed for mailing those. The unidentified man has already stepped in to keep Chrissy safe, following his suspicious text and public argument with her at the club gym. He did not take it well, honey, so let's talk about what happened next, because trust me, it is more complicated than you would think. Imagine that after that experience. Jim supposedly did not just leave the club, he was furious. Oh no, there are rumors that Jim left the club immediately and went straight to a nearby motel, and boy was he not alone. A trustworthy source disclosed the facts. So let's just say they were not precisely trying to hide it. And Jim left with someone and it wasn't Chrissy. Is that okay with you? According to several sources, Jim left the club with a woman who looked a lot like the person he had been texting, and the documents add up, but I don't say it was the mystery woman, but according to someone with knowledge of the situation, Jim left her holding hands without trying to be covered. Chrissy hadn't even left the club yet, and he was already moving on. But guess what? Someone managed to get a picture of it on camera. In fact, by the next morning, images of Jim and this unnamed woman leaving the hotel were making the rounds on social media. Whether it was from Hollywood Unlocked or TMZ The Shade Room, one fan cap the image after Chrissy should cut Jim off permanently, since he has been garbage and Jim isn't even trying to hide it anymore. Jim posted it and couldn't wait a day to make Chrissy look stupid again. What about the vicious remarks? Oh my goodness, it got worse. Just when you thought it couldn't get much worse, the anonymous woman went live posting on Instagram while sipping a glass of wine. How are you going to cheat and then have the G to lose? I am not the one who made promises. That is his problem. So you guys should mind your own business. She sent with a sneer as comments started to flood in, asking if she was the person Jim left with. Are you comfortable with me telling me that this woman is laughing about Jim's rude behavior against Chrissy, even though she is aware of it? Jim, too, had the G to make things worse by posting a picture of himself instead of denying it or apologizing. Instagram posted the following caption the next day: I promise, honey, Chrissy. He almost threw my phone across the room. She must have noticed too, since a few hours later, she wrote the following enigmatic comment on her Instagram story: believe them the first time when they show you who they are, a baby. However, it didn't stop there. According to someone close to Chrissy, the unidentified man had no intention of letting Jim E.T. get away with this. After Jim's little prank, an unknown man called Chrissy and said, you do not have to deal with this anymore. Chrissy clearly listened because she went to her lawyer and said, honey, yes. Chrissy was seen, according to one insider, after years of keeping Jim down. Chrissy is done playing games this time. We are dealing with one of the most vicious divorce attorneys in the business, outside the New York City office of a well-known attorney. What about the insane rumors? According to insiders, Chrissy wants to take everything with her rather than just move out, because her name is on some of Jim's most valuable assets, such as the house businesses and endorsement deals. Jim may lose everything if Chrissy filed for divorce, my darling. An insider told him the truth when he had nothing now. That he has something, she gets half of it. Jim also knows he made a mistake since Jim allegedly started blowing up Chrissy's phone after finding out that she had seen her lawyer, according to someone close to her. Jim has continued to call, text, and leave voicemails. He even went to her apartment in person, but Chrissy wouldn't open the door. One source claims that Jim even attempted to get his own mother, Mama Jones, to talk to Chrissy. I told Chrissy I love you, but I cannot keep doing this, Jim's mother said over the phone, essentially pleading with her to improve the situation. What about that the internet is on Christmas Honey's side and Chrissy deserves more? This is how Jim pays her back for keeping him down when no one else did, and it would be smart for Chrissy to take him for everything. Nicki Minaj made the never play with a woman who has been holding you down from the beginning. The problem is that Jim is dealing with more, Rema wrote on her Instagram story in response to a post. That said, Jim has been acting himself. Chrissy has been loyal. Who else jumped in, you asked? More than just personal criticism, his career is already suffering, honey, according to a network insider. Jim was reportedly negotiating a new reality TV deal with a big network, but the deal has been put on ice as a result of the issue. Jim's business is failing, honey, and it looks like he is already pulling out of one of his major endorsement deals, which is for sneakers. Do you want the blowback? Advertisers are already fleeing because Jim's name is too shady right now, valued at over 6 figures as confirmed by an insider, and the company is considering ending the deal since they don't want to be associated with this kind of scandal. The question now is how Jim handles this, ass. From what I understand, Chrissy is currently in total authority. The receipts are in her possession. The public backs her, and she has the advantage in court. However, if Chrissy decides to take this matter all the way to trial, Jim might lose his job, his money, and his reputation in general. He might even lose his love. What is the most ridiculous thing that Chrissy hasn't said yet? According to someone close to her, Chrissy is letting Jim hang himself right now because she knows that everything he says will just make him look worse. Oh, he's still the question now is not if Chrissy will leave him, but rather how much Jim would regret it if she does. Jim was spotted acting irresponsibly out here last night at another club, appearing messy and inebriated. Can you guess who he was with? She was the same mysterious woman. And when does Chrissy make contact, honey? This will be the end of Jim Jones's life. The only question now is whether Jim will survive the consequences, or if this is the beginning of Jim and Chrissy's demise, as you are already aware. I will be back with every update. The question now is whether Jim and Chrissy's relationship will actually terminate, or whether Chrissy will leave him permanently after years of supporting, protecting, and holding him down. Whether she does, what will happen to Jim? Trust me, honey, this story is far from finished. Jim's reputation and career may not survive this one without Chrissy. Let's face it. But what about the tea? Chrissy's silence and quietness now speak louder than anything she could say. Honey, and Jim may lose not only his love, but also his money and house, considering his professional reputation. If Chrissy departs and files those cases and he continues to act recklessly while wearing the nameless woman's arm, he appears to be trying to destroy himself. But what about the admirers? They have already selected. On the one hand, it appears like Chrissy has the support of social media, and if she chooses to suit Jim, everyone will be watching. But what about the unnamed man? Is that a genuine story about him, or is he just a friend? The question now is, what will Chrissy do? Will she then continue to say nothing, and will she let Jim fail, or will she exploit power to vanquish him forever? Tell us if you're more of a Jim. Let us know in the comments. A fan of Chrissy, is it time for Chrissy should continue without turning around, or this story is far from over? Should she forgive Jim from the end? So kindly provide your opinions along with me. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. So trust me when I say that this story is, when the next episode is released, you'll want to be the first to know, my love. Please. Wah, because this story is just getting started.